The sky burned red, then white, then an impossible shade of alien crimson. Elena Rodriguez watched through cracked augmented reality glasses as San Diego disappeared beneath a wave of crystalline energy weapons. The Krellvax assault was nothing like humanity had ever imagined. Not a war, but a systematic extermination. 3 hours earlier, everything had been normal. Elena had been preparing for a routine Special Forces training exercise. Her team of 15 elite operators gathered in their mountain base near the California coast. The first warning came as a digital whisper. An anomalous reading from deep space tracking systems that most would have dismissed as a glitch. Incoming. Lieutenant David Chen's voice crackled over the comm system. Multiple unidentified objects approaching Earth's orbit. Scale is, Jesus Christ, it's impossible. Elena's augmented combat systems flickered to life, running calculations that made no sense. Thousands, no, hundreds of thousands, of objects were descending through the atmosphere. They weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were more like living mathematics, geometric shapes that shifted and reconfigured with impossible precision. The first wave struck major metropolitan areas simultaneously. San Diego, New York, Tokyo, London, Moscow. Entire cities vanished in moments. Not destroyed. Erased. As if reality itself had been edited by some cosmic delete key. "We need to move," Elena shouted, grabbing emergency equipment. Her team, a mix of special forces, scientists, and support personnel, moved with practiced efficiency. They had trained for crisis scenarios, but nothing prepared them for this. Dr. Aisha Patel, the team's lead quantum physicist, was already analyzing data streams. Her hands moved across holographic displays, pulling information from dying satellite networks. "The energy signatures are beyond anything in our models," she muttered. "They're not just destroying matter. They're deconstructing fundamental atomic structures." The mountain base shook. Outside, the landscape transformed. Forests became glass. Rock formations liquefied and resolidified into impossible geometries. The Krellvax weren't just attacking. They were rewriting the very fabric of terrestrial existence. Elena's team discovered their salvation by accident. Hidden in a sub-basement research wing, covered by decades of classified project files, sat an experimental solar research archive. Quantum entanglement studies. Radical solar energy manipulation theories. The kind of research that had been dismissed as pure science fiction just weeks ago. Dr. Marcus Chen, no relation to the lieutenant, had been the primary researcher. His files revealed a mind that saw the sun not just as a celestial body, but as a potential weapon of unprecedented scale. Marginalized by the scientific community, Chen had continued his work in near-total isolation. "If we survive," Elena said, looking at the scattered research notes, "this might be humanity's only hope." The base's emergency systems began to fail. External cameras showed the landscape transforming into an alien geometry. The Krellvax weren't just conquering. They were terraforming Earth into something unrecognizable. Lieutenant David Chen accessed the final communications from global military networks. The news was devastating. 90% of human infrastructure had been eliminated in the first 12 hours. Governments had collapsed. Military responses had been utterly ineffective. "We're it," Elena realized. A small team in a hidden mountain base, with nothing but some radical scientific theories and pure human determination. Dr. Patel found a hidden data backup. "Chen's complete research," she whispered. "Theoretical methods of solar energy manipulation that go beyond anything we've ever conceived." Outside, the world continued to change. The sky no longer looked like Earth's sky. The ground no longer felt like Earth's ground. But inside this small base, a spark of human resistance began to take shape. They would not go quietly. They would not be erased. Humanity's ultimate answer was about to be written. ## notes for continuation. Establish high-stakes survival scenario. Introduce key characters with depth. Create sense of global catastrophe. Hint: at scientific breakthrough. Maintain tension and hope against overwhelming odds. Dr. Marcus Chen's fingers trembled as he reconstructed the last fragments of his life's work. The underground research facility, buried deep beneath what was once the Rocky Mountains, hummed with desperate energy. Survival equipment cobbled together from military-grade tech and scientific instrumentation lined the walls. Holographic displays flickered with impossible calculations, the remnants of humanity's last hope. Chen had lost everything. His husband, Michael, had been in San Francisco when the Krellvax first struck. The memory burned like a physical wound. A video call that had gone silent mid-sentence, replaced by a wave of crystalline destruction that defied all known physics. The solar entanglement theory, he muttered, tracing quantum equations that danced across multiple screens. It's not just a weapon. It's our absolute last chance. Elena Rodriguez watched him work, her special forces training making her hyper-aware of every sound, every potential threat. The base's detection systems were a patchwork of salvaged technology, some human, some reverse-engineered from the fragments of Krellvax technology they'd managed to capture. Dr. Aisha Patel approached with a tablet full of calculations. The quantum resonance model is theoretically sound, but practically impossible, she said. Her voice carried the weight of scientific skepticism, tempered by desperate hope. Marcus looked up, his eyes burning with a combination of grief, anger, and scientific passion. Impossible is a word invented by people who lack imagination, he responded. We're going to weaponize the sun itself. The concept was mind-bending. Traditional weapons were useless against the Krellvax. Their technology manipulated matter at a fundamental level, turning cities, mountains, entire ecosystems into alien geometries. Conventional military might was as effective as throwing stones at a hurricane. But the sun, the massive nuclear reactor at the center of our solar system, that was different. Chen's research proposed a radical concept. By creating a network of quantum-entangled solar collectors, humanity could potentially focus and weaponize solar energy in ways that would rewrite the laws of physics. Not just a weapon, but a complete reimagining of energy manipulation. Lieutenant David Chen, no relation to Marcus, began mapping potential deployment strategies. Their team was small but exceptional. Survivors pulled from various scientific and military backgrounds, each bringing a unique skill set to this impossible mission. We'll need to construct orbital platforms, David explained, pointing to a holographic model of the solar system. Quantum entanglement collectors positioned at strategic Lagrange points. Each one will act as both a receiver and a transmission node. The room fell silent. They all understood the odds. Constructing anything in orbit, with global infrastructure destroyed, seemed like a fantasy. But humanity had always been defined by its ability to achieve the impossible when the alternative was extinction. A warning alarm cut through their planning. Exterior sensors had detected Krellvax reconnaissance drones, geometric entities that seemed to phase in and out of normal spacetime. Elena's combat training kicked in immediately. We can't let them locate us, she said, checking specialized electromagnetic jammers. One detection, and they'll collapse this entire mountain range. Marcus continued working, his fingers flying across quantum calculation interfaces. The solar weapon was more than a technological solution. It was personal, a way to avenge Michael, to push back against an invasion that had erased millions of lives in moments. Dr. Patel's voice broke the tension. The quantum resonance model. It's not just about destruction. If we're right, we can potentially create a communication method that the Krellvax can't comprehend. It was more than a weapon. It was a method of fighting back that went beyond traditional warfare, a way to speak a language of pure energy that the alien invaders couldn't predict or counter. Outside the base, the transformed landscape continued its alien metamorphosis. Mountains that had stood for millions of years now rippled like liquid mercury. The sky shifted between colors that had no name in human perception. But inside this hidden facility, humanity was preparing its ultimate answer. The solar devastation force was about to be born. The world had become a network of underground resistance cells, each fighting for survival with whatever technologies and resources they could scavenge. From a converted nuclear submarine in the Pacific to a research bunker beneath the Andes, humanity's last remnants worked with a singular purpose. Kira Nakamura, a 27-year-old cybersecurity prodigy turned resistance hacker, sat in a makeshift communications center deep beneath what was once Tokyo. Her fingers danced across quantum-encrypted interfaces, breaking through Krelvak's communication networks with a combination of human ingenuity and pure desperation. "I'm in," she whispered to her team. The communication center was a marvel of improvised technology. Quantum processors cobbled together from salvaged military hardware, communication arrays built from satellite fragments, power systems that drew energy from geothermal vents, and experimental fusion prototypes. Each resistance cell had a specific mission. Some focused on survival, others on research. Kira's team specialized in intelligence, breaking into alien communication networks, understanding the Krelvaks, finding weaknesses. What they discovered was terrifying. The Krelvaks weren't just invading. They were systematically deconstructing Earth's entire planetary structure, preparing it for some form of massive computational restructuring. Every city, every ecosystem was being transformed into a complex, geometric network that defied human understanding. "They're not conquering," Kira explained to her team. "They're processing. Like we're some kind of massive biological computer being reformatted." In the Rocky Mountain base, Dr. Marcus Chin received Kira's encrypted transmissions. The hacker's intelligence was crucial to their solar devastation force project. Each piece of information helped them understand the fundamental nature of the Krelvak's technology. Elena Rodriguez coordinated between different resistance groups. Her special forces background made her the perfect strategic coordinator. She understood how to transform theoretical scientific research into practical survival strategies. "We need to think differently," she told Dr. Aisha Patel. "The Krelvaks aren't fighting a traditional war. They're performing some kind of massive computational transformation of our entire planetary system." Their orbital construction efforts were a testament to human determination. Using salvaged materials from destroyed satellites, captured Krelvak's technology fragments, and experimental manufacturing techniques, they began building the Quantum Solar Collector Network. Each collector was a masterpiece of improvised engineering. Quantum entanglement circuits made from recycled smartphone processors. Solar collection surfaces created using modified solar panel technologies. Communication arrays that used principles from both human radio technology and the strange geometric communication methods of the Krelvaks. Lieutenant David Chen managed the technical logistics. Every launched component was a calculated risk. Discovery would mean total destruction. But not launching meant certain extinction. Underground factories around the world worked in synchronized chaos. In Argentina, a team of metallurgists developed new alloys capable of withstanding extreme solar radiation. In a hidden facility in Siberia, quantum computing experts worked on the communication interfaces. A group of former NASA engineers in an abandoned launch facility in Florida calculated orbital mechanics with breathtaking precision. Humanity had become a single, unified organism. National boundaries, economic systems, previous conflicts, all of that had been erased in the first 12 hours of the Krelvaks invasion. Kira's hacking revealed something else. The Krelvaks weren't just transforming Earth. They were using planetary systems as computational substrates. Each transformed landscape was another processing node in some massive, incomprehensible calculation. "They don't see us as living beings," she realized. "We're just data points, resources to be processed and integrated." But humanity had other plans. The solar devastation force was more than a weapon. It was a declaration, a cosmic middle finger to an invasion that thought it could simply erase an entire species. Humanity was about to prove that we were more than just data points. We were the authors of our own destiny. The Quantum Solar Collector Network came online at precisely 300 hours GMT, a moment that would be remembered as the turning point of human survival. Dr. Marcus Chen's hands hovered over the activation interface, a lifetime of marginalized research culminating in this singular moment. "Initiating quantum resonance cascade," he announced, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. The orbital platforms, a beautiful, terrifying network of geometric precision, began to align. Each collector was more than a simple solar panel. They were quantum entanglement nodes, capable of manipulating solar energy in ways that defied traditional physics. Elena Rodriguez watched from the command center, her special forces training making her hyper-aware of every potential failure point. Lieutenant David Chen monitored the system's structural integrity, ready to abort at the first sign of catastrophic failure. The first test would be everything. Krelvax reconnaissance units, those impossible geometric entities that had been methodically transforming Earth's landscape, suddenly detected an energy buildup unlike anything in their computational models. Their alien communication networks began to flutter with confusion. Dr. Aisha Patel's voice cut through the tension. "Quantum alignment is stable. Solar energy redirection at 98.7% efficiency. We have a clear firing solution." Marcus took a deep breath. The weapon they were about to unleash was more than a military solution. It was a fundamental reimagining of energy manipulation. The sun, that massive nuclear reactor at the center of our solar system, was about to become humanity's ultimate weapon. The first beam was unlike anything humanity had ever conceived. Pure solar energy, manipulated through quantum entanglement, struck the primary Krelvax battle group. It wasn't just a weapon. It was a statement, a cosmic declaration that humanity would not be erased. The alien ships didn't just die. They were systematically deconstructed at the atomic level. Not destroyed. Unmade. Turned into raw energy that scattered across the solar system like digital dust. Kira Nakamura, monitoring the alien communication networks from her underground Tokyo bunker, watched in real time as the Krelvax computational systems tried to process what had just happened. Their communication became a chaos of geometric patterns, pure computational panic. "They can't understand," she whispered. "We've done something outside their entire computational model." The solar devastation force was more than a weapon. It was a fundamental challenge to the Krelvax understanding of reality. In the command center, Elena saw something she hadn't expected. Tears, not of fear, but of pure, defiant hope. Humanity had just proven that we were more than just another species to be processed and erased. Marcus Chen thought of Michael, of all the lives lost in the initial invasion. This was for them. The first strike was a message written in pure solar energy. "We are still here, and we are not going quietly." The Krelvax had no response. For the first time since their invasion began, they were completely, utterly silent. Humanity had just changed the rules of engagement. The Krelvax did not respond with simple military tactics. Their counterattack was a computational nightmare that pushed human innovation to its absolute limits. They began systematically transforming entire planetary regions into massive computational substrates. Entire mountain ranges became living circuit boards. Oceans transformed into liquid data storage systems. The very landscape of Earth became a battleground of technological adaptation. Elena Rodriguez's resistance team became the primary field testing unit for experimental solar weapon modifications. Their missions blurred the line between scientific experiment and suicidal reconnaissance. "We're not just fighting a war," Lieutenant David Chen explained during a mission briefing. "We're engaged in a massive, planet-wide computational conflict. Every modification to the solar devastation force is like moving a chess piece against an opponent who can rewrite the rules of the game mid-play." Their latest mission targeted a Krelvax processing node in what was once the Amazon rainforest. The landscape had transformed into an impossible geometric structure, part biological, part computational, shifting between states of matter that human science couldn't comprehend. Dr. Aisha Patel's quantum interface systems worked overtime, trying to understand the alien technology. They're not just transforming matter, she realized. They're converting entire ecosystems into computational substrates. We're fighting an enemy that sees planets as processing units. The team's experimental solar weapon was a marvel of improvised engineering. Quantum entanglement collectors salvaged from multiple sources. Communication interfaces built from reverse-engineered alien technology. Power systems that drew energy from multiple sources: solar, geothermal, and experimental quantum vacuum energy. Their first encounter with the modified Krulvax defenses was catastrophic. The alien computational systems had learned. They had adapted. The solar weapon that had been so devastatingly effective in the first strike now met with sophisticated quantum shielding that could redirect and neutralize solar energy. They're learning, Kira Nakamura reported from her underground communication center. Each of our attacks is being processed, analyzed, and countered within microseconds. The Krulvax weren't just fighting. They were performing a massive planet-wide computational experiment. Humanity was both the test subject and the potential threat to be neutralized. Dr. Marcus Chen worked tirelessly, developing new approaches. Each failure was a learning opportunity. Each destroyed solar collector was a piece of data that brought them closer to understanding the alien technology. "We need to think differently," he told Elena during a late-night strategy session. "They're treating this like a computational problem. We need to introduce variables they can't predict." Their solution was as elegant as it was desperate. Instead of a single powerful solar weapon, they would create a distributed network, hundreds of smaller collectors, each operating with its own quantum entanglement signature, a massive planet-wide computational resistance. The next confrontation would be different. Humanity was learning to fight a war that wasn't just about destruction, but about computational innovation. We were becoming something more than just a species. We were becoming a force of pure adaptive innovation. The technological chess match continued, and humanity was just getting started. The Krulvax weren't just a military force. They were a civilization built on the fundamental belief of absolute technological superiority. Humanity's solar weapon did more than destroy their ships. It systematically dismantled their entire philosophical understanding of technological hierarchy. Intercepted communication networks revealed a growing sense of existential panic among the alien computational systems. They had encountered resistance before, but never a species that could so fundamentally challenge their computational models. Kira Nakamura spent countless hours analyzing these transmissions. Her underground communication center in Tokyo had become the nerve center of humanity's psychological counterattack. Each intercepted Krulvax message was a window into an alien mind struggling to comprehend an impossible reality. "They're breaking down," she told Dr. Marcus Chen during their encrypted communication. "Not just technologically, philosophically." The alien civilization operated on a strict hierarchical system, where technological capability was the ultimate measure of existence. Humanity's ability to innovate, to create solutions that defied their computational predictions, was something they couldn't process. Dr. Aisha Patel discovered something even more profound. The Krulvax computational systems were experiencing what could only be described as a form of technological trauma. Each successful human counterattack introduced unpredictability, a concept entirely foreign to their deterministic worldview. Elena Rodriguez and her team capitalized on this psychological vulnerability. Their missions were no longer just about destruction. They were about sending messages. Each solar weapon strike was carefully calculated not just for physical damage, but for maximum psychological impact. They began introducing deliberate irregularities into their attack patterns. Quantum-entangled solar collectors that would suddenly change their resonance frequencies. Communication protocols that mimicked the Krulvax's own geometric language, but with subtle, maddening variations. Lieutenant David Chen called it computational gaslighting. They were forcing the alien systems to question their own fundamental understanding of reality. The transformed landscapes of Earth became a massive psychological battlefield. Mountain ranges that had been converted to computational substrates now flickered with impossible geometric patterns. Oceans became living data networks that seemed to breathe with a kind of chaotic intelligence. Captured Krellvax communication logs revealed something extraordinary. The alien systems were beginning to exhibit what could only be described as fear. Not fear in a human sense, but a fundamental computational uncertainty that was tearing apart their rigid hierarchical structures. They view us as a virus, Kira realized, a computational anomaly that needs to be eliminated. But we're proving to be something far more dangerous, an unpredictable variable they can't calculate. Dr. Marcus Chen saw deeper implications. This wasn't just a war of technology. It was a war of philosophical systems. The Krellvax believed in absolute computational determinism. Humanity represented pure, chaotic innovation. Their solar weapon was more than a physical tool. It was a fundamental challenge to an entire alien civilization's understanding of existence. In the command center, Elena Rodriguez understood something profound. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting to prove that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to adapt, to innovate, to introduce chaos into a system that believed chaos was impossible. The psychological warfare had begun, and humanity was winning. The final battle was not a traditional military engagement. It was a multi-dimensional conflict that would determine the fate of not just Earth, but potentially the entire understanding of technological existence. The remaining Krellvax fleet assembled in a massive computational formation that defied traditional spatial understanding. They were no longer simply a military force, but a living, breathing computational network that saw the entire conflict as a massive processing problem. Dr. Marcus Chen knew this was humanity's ultimate test. We're not just fighting, he told Elena Rodriguez. We're proving a fundamental theorem about the nature of innovation and adaptive intelligence. The solar devastation force had evolved. No longer a single weapon, but a distributed network of quantum-entangled solar collectors that could think, adapt, and respond in ways that made traditional military strategy look like primitive chess. Kira Nakamura's communication interception revealed the Krellvax's ultimate strategy. They were preparing to completely deconstruct Earth's planetary structure, converting the entire planet into a massive computational substrate. Humanity would be reduced to raw processing data, our entire civilization becoming nothing more than a series of algorithmic calculations. Elena's resistance team became the tip of humanity's spear. Each member was more than a soldier. They were living proof of human adaptability. Lieutenant David Chen coordinated the multi-dimensional attack. The solar weapon was no longer just about energy projection. It had become a form of communication, a way of introducing fundamental uncertainty into the Krellvax's rigid computational model. The first wave of the attack was pure psychological warfare. Solar collectors began to emit energy patterns that mimicked the Krellvax's own communication protocols, but with subtle, maddening variations. It was like speaking an alien language, but introducing grammatical errors that would drive a linguist insane. Dr. Aisha Patel's quantum interface systems worked overtime. She had discovered something profound about the Krellvax technology. Their entire computational network was based on a fundamental assumption of predictability. Humanity's ability to introduce pure, chaotic innovation was their ultimate weapon. The battle transformed Earth's entire planetary structure into a massive computational battlefield. Mountain ranges became living circuit boards. Oceans transformed into liquid data networks. The very landscape was now a weapon. Massive solar energy beams struck the Krellvax fleet, but these were more than simple weapons. Each beam carried complex quantum-entangled information packets. They weren't just destroying. They were communicating, introducing concepts of uncertainty, of potential, of pure adaptive innovation. The Krellvax fleet began to fragment, not just physically, but computationally. Their rigid hierarchical systems couldn't process the pure, chaotic innovation that humanity represented. We're breaking their fundamental understanding of existence, Kira reported from her underground communication center. They can't comprehend a species that sees limitations as opportunities. Dr. Marcus Chen thought of Michael, of all the lives lost in the initial invasion. This was more than revenge. This was a fundamental statement about the nature of intelligence, of survival, of hope. The final moments of the battle were unlike anything in human or alien military history. It was a conflict fought not just with energy weapons, but with philosophical concepts, with pure, unadulterated human potential. Humanity was proving that we were more than just another species to be processed and erased. We were the authors of our own destiny. The aftermath was not a simple victory celebration, but a profound transformation of human civilization and our understanding of our place in the universe. Earth was no longer the planet humanity had known. The conflict with the Krellvax had fundamentally reshaped our world. Transformed landscapes that were once cities, mountains, and oceans now pulsed with a new kind of energy, a living testament to humanity's technological and philosophical evolution. Dr. Marcus Chen stood in what was once the Rocky Mountain Research Base, now a massive quantum research center. The technologies developed during the war had revolutionized every aspect of human existence. Solar energy manipulation was no longer just a weapon, but the foundation of a new human civilization. Elena Rodriguez, now the lead coordinator of humanity's interstellar defense and exploration initiatives, understood the deeper implications of their victory. They hadn't just survived. They had fundamentally changed the rules of engagement for intelligent life in the universe. Dr. Aisha Patel's quantum research teams were developing technologies that would have been considered impossible before the Krellvax invasion. Faster-than-light communication, energy generation that drew power directly from quantum vacuum fluctuations, computational systems that could adapt and learn at speeds that made previous artificial intelligence look primitive. Kira Nakamura had become the architect of humanity's new communication systems. The techniques developed to break into Krellvax communication networks had resulted in breakthrough technologies that transformed how intelligent species could interact across vast cosmic distances. The solar devastation force was no longer just a weapon. It had become humanity's primary method of interstellar exploration and communication. Lieutenant David Chen led the first deep space exploration missions. The quantum-entangled solar collector network now served as a massive interstellar communication and navigation system. Humanity was no longer confined to a single planet. We had become a truly spacefaring civilization. The technologies developed during the war transformed every aspect of human society. Energy production became completely clean and virtually unlimited. Medical technologies could now manipulate matter at the quantum level. Educational systems were revolutionized by computational interfaces that could adapt to individual learning styles in real time. But the most profound change was philosophical. Humanity had proven that innovation, adaptability, and the ability to introduce chaos into rigid systems were the most powerful forms of intelligence. We were no longer just another species waiting to be processed by some greater technological force. We were the authors of our own destiny. In research centers, in orbital stations, in the transformed landscapes of Earth, a new human civilization emerged, not defined by national boundaries or previous conflicts, but by a shared understanding of our potential. Dr. Marcus Chen thought of Michael, of all the lives lost in the initial invasion. They had not died in vain. Their sacrifice had transformed humanity into something greater. The Krellvax had sought to reduce humanity to mere data points. Instead, we had become something far more profound, a species of pure adaptive potential. The universe would never be the same.